Hey guys, welcome back to MD Cubing. I'm your host, MD Cuber. Today, I have a really exciting video for you guys. I'm going to be teaching you guys how to clean out and set up a 3x3. So without further ado, let's begin. So first things first, what you want to do is misalign the top layer by 45 degrees and take out an edge piece. What taking out an edge piece will do will give you the ability to disassemble the entire puzzle. Now, if you cannot take out an edge piece, what I recommend doing is loosening at least two sides that will give you the ability to remove a piece. Usually what I would loosen is this side, they're adjacent to each other. That way you can just pull it out very easily. My tensions are already perfect on this cube, at least for my standards for the most part, so I don't really need to do that. But if you did, and you're not being able to take out a piece without you feeling like the cube is gonna break, that's what I would do. Anyway, so next things first is you just wanna put your thumb underneath the edge piece, so you wedge it in between, and then just yank out a piece. It should come out pretty easily. And then you can just, take out a corner, take out another edge, and then take apart the entire cube. Once you have the entire cube disassembled, you want to just make sure everything's organized. Have your corners where they're supposed to be, edges, center pieces, and then you have your your core with the center caps. And now what you want to do is you want to start by cleaning out the core and then move on to the pieces. I have my towel with me, so I'm just gonna wipe down every single center and just do that until every single center is good. You wanna make sure, especially with Moyu cubes, to wipe down just the entire ring around it and then get underneath the center skirt as well, like so. That just makes sure you get every single piece of dirt and grime that's on the puzzle, and then so you don't really leave any left. After the centers, or the core has been cleaned, you want to set this aside and move on to the corners and edges. With a corner piece, usually what I like to do is make like a circular motion around the entire piece, like so, holding onto it. You want to make sure that you get onto all the tracks, including the inside of the piece, and just like this. Usually, like I said, what I do is I make a pinch around the corner and just rotate it so that every piece, gets contacted and wiped off and cleaned. You want to repeat that until every single corner has been cleaned. Now, after every single corner piece has been cleaned, you want to move on to edges. With edges, what I like to do is get every point of contact thoroughly scrubbed. That way that there's no grime left as well. Now, after every single piece has been cleaned, we're going to move on to lubrication. Before working on any of the pieces and assembling the cube, I like to start on the core. This is weight 5. I'm going to be using it on the core. It's a great piece, inner piece lube and core lube because it lasts a very long time, and since it's a high weighted silicone, this won't run out anytime soon. First things first, what you're going to want to do is hold down the center piece. That way it cannot move, so you can lube the screw and the spring without any troubles. Then what you're going to want to do is put the nozzle inside where the spring is and just start dispensing slowly as you rotate the center and make a circular motion. That way every single point inside gets at least contacted by a little bit of lube. After that, what you're going to want to do is start moving it up and down just so the lube is more evenly dispersed and spinning it. And then after that, you're going to want to put on the center cap and move on to the rest of the centers. After you get every single spring lubed, and same thing with the screw, you're going to want to put on the center caps along with some pieces, just so you can start building up the cube, because it'll make it a lot easier to assemble the cube if some of the pieces are already in. Along with that, the center caps don't stay in, so you want to make sure to have some pieces in there so the center caps don't dislodge when you're putting the cube back together. Making a 2x2 block like that should help build up the rest of the cube. What I like to do after making the 2x2 block is put in the other edge pieces, then the corners, and then the other two edges, leaving one edge open. After that, you can start entering pieces into the slot. That way it makes it easier to assemble the puzzle. Once the cube is mostly built up, except for the remaining corner and edge, what you're gonna wanna do is the same thing as you did when you started. You're gonna insert the corner and then spread the pieces apart to insert the edge. You wanna turn it by about 45 degrees and then twist it in. It may take a couple tries, but eventually you'll get it. Afterwards, when the cube has been assembled, you want to put the center caps back on so it becomes a solvable cube. One thing to keep in mind is when the weight 5 is in there, it can create some pressure because there's no way for air to escape. So you may have center caps that dislodge, so just keep them down and push them in and they'll eventually stay in place. You may get a parity or two, so just fix the parity before finishing up the rest of the cube. Once the cube is solved, we can wipe down the rest of the surface and then begin lubing. We want to follow the same step as before, misaligning the layer by 45 degrees, jamming your thumb into the piece and removing an edge in a corner. And then you're going to want to remove 2 more edges. So I usually do the edges right next to each other. And then you want to set these pieces aside except for the piece that goes here. So it would be the green red edge. The rest of the edges can just go off to the side for now. What I usually do for lubing is start with a heavy lube and then do a mix in between just to make sure everything's even. I usually like a cube that's controllable but fast. So this is a lube setup that I would go with. This is what I prefer for lubing my cubes generally: Glide, Stealth, Gravitas, and Silk. This provides control but stability, and I really prefer this when, lubricating my puzzles. The reason why I prefer this is because we have 2 controllable lubes and 2 fast lubes, which, combined makes a really nice, fast, but controllable feel. The first lube that I like to start with is Gravitas because it's a heavy lube and because it gives the lube time to set as we add more and more. You don't need a lot of this to make the cube good, so just be mindful of how much you use, because if you use too much, it will make the cube too slow. After getting a glob of it, the first thing you want to do is use it on the tracks. When it goes on the tracks of the pieces, it makes the pieces feel really nice and smooth. Afterwards, I usually put some of it on the actual piece itself. Along with that, I usually put it on 2 sides of the remainder of the edge, just so it gets spread out evenly and it's not just on the inside of the pieces. After that, I usually put the edge back where it started, right here, and then align the layer so that we're on an edge that isn't lubricated. Now we can go ahead and assemble the rest of the cube. If any lube gets on the surface, which I see it kind of has, we can just wipe it off and then do a couple turns to break it in. After a solve or 2, we can begin adding the rest of the lubricants. The next lube that I like to start with is Glide. This will speed up the puzzle and remove it from the slow state that it's in currently. Same type of situation as before, except we're gonna wanna remove an edge that's diagonal from the edge we lubed previously. That way we're not really getting our hands dirty and we're not touching an edge that's already been, compromised with lube. Syringe lubes have a tendency to leak, so we just wanna be fast about it and lube the track of the piece. Glide disperses very quickly, so you just wanna be very careful. We're gonna lube the same surfaces as before, just, 1 track right here, and then both sides of the piece. Now we can go ahead and insert the piece back into the puzzle. Doing the same thing as to misalign the layer and assemble the cube. Now we can do a break-in and a solve just to make sure the lube is dispersed evenly. Now that the lube has been broken in, we can add the Stealth and Silk. Don't forget to wipe off the surface if any lube gets onto it. With Silk, I usually like to add 2 to 3 drops. I usually will split a piece open so I can visualize how much lube is going into the actual puzzle. 1, 2, 3. After the Silk has been added, I do a break-in solve just to make sure that the lube is dispersed. After you do a solve, the last thing we're gonna do is add some Stealth. Since Stealth is required to be, applied to the surface, we wanna pick an edge that hasn't really been disturbed by all the lube we've been adding. I usually like to pick an edge that was on the bottom layer of wherever we started. Since we're on white for the most part, and since our edges are here and here, I usually like to go up to yellow and pick an edge, like I said, that's opposite from the center that we were on top of. For this case, I'll be picking yellow-green. After the edge is out, we can take out our Stealth, twist it until you see blue coming up, misalign the layer, and then wipe it on the surface and on the centerpiece, just to make sure it's all properly applied. I love Stealth because it's easy to use and because it doesn't make a mess. After we insert the edge, we can do a final break and solve and then dictate how the puzzle feels to see if we need to add any more lube to slow it down or speed it up. This cube feels really, really nice. I think I like the setup that I put into it. And now let's do a couple solves. In total, I think this cube feels really, really nice. I like the setup that I put into it, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have a nice day. Bye-bye.